A biblical story is getting new life thanks to new evidence of Noah's Ark. Researchers say they have 3D images of what they believe is the Ark in the Ararat Mountains in Turkey.
538 feet long, 90 feet wide, 54 feet high. Those are the measurements of a boat-shaped formation discovered in eastern Turkey in 1959. Genesis chapter 6 verse 15 gives the dimensions of Noah's Ark: 300 cubits by 50 cubits by 30 cubits. Convert the ancient Hebrew cubit to modern measurement using the standard 18-inch length. 300 cubits equals 538 feet. 50 cubits equals 90 feet. 30 cubits equals 54 feet. The match is exact, not approximate, not close, exact. And it sits in the precise geographic region where Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 says the ark came to rest, the mountains of Ararat. Modern technology can now see beneath the surface. What it reveals matches what was written 3,500 years ago. The site is called Durupinar, named after the Turkish army captain who first documented it during an aerial survey. It lies approximately 15 miles south of the summit of Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey. The formation is visible from the air. Its outline resembles a ship. The proportions match ancient naval architecture. Length-to-width ratio follows the same principle used in modern vessels for stability. But this formation is not modern. Geological surveys place the surrounding strata thousands of years old. What makes this significant is not just the shape. Erosion can create unusual patterns. Wind and water can carve rock into recognizable forms. The significance lies in the dimensions. Random natural processes do not produce formations that match ancient specifications to the foot. Yet, that is what exists at Durupinar. The length, width, and height ratios align with the biblical text using the most commonly accepted cubit measurement. The probability of this occurring by chance in the exact geographic region named in Scripture is statistically negligible. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted at the site reveal something more compelling than surface shape. The scans identify subsurface structures, internal features, not uniform rock or compressed soil, patterns. The radar detects what appear to be regular intervals along the length of the formation, spaces, voids, arranged with consistency rather than randomness. Natural geological voids form through erosion, water flow, or tectonic pressure. They appear irregular, discontinuous, random in placement and size. The features detected at Durupinar show different characteristics. They repeat. The spacing between them follows measurable intervals. They align along what appears to be a central axis running the length of the formation. This suggests organization, not erosion. The scans also indicate vertical structures, elements that extend perpendicular to the base. In cross-section, these appear as upright features spaced at regular distances. Their orientation remains consistent, not tilted or collapsed as would be expected in fractured geology. The alignment suggests they were positioned intentionally and have maintained their orientation over time. Genesis chapter 6 verse 14 instructs Noah to make rooms in the ark. The Hebrew word used is ki'an, meaning compartments or nests, divisions within the structure. The radar findings at Durupinar reveal exactly that: compartmentalized space. Sections are separated by what appear to be boundaries or walls. Erosion creates cavities. It does not create compartments. Construction creates compartments. The distinction matters because it indicates purpose rather than accident. Soil samples taken from the site add another layer to the evidence. Analysis reveals mineralized organic material, fossilized residues that differ in composition from the surrounding soil. These materials are not evenly distributed across the region. They concentrate along the perimeter and interior zones of the formation. Natural sedimentation disperses material outward over time. Concentration in specific areas suggests containment. Something was enclosed here, not scattered. Early reports from researchers who accessed the site before restrictions were imposed described findings that included petrified wood, fossilized animal hair, and materials chemically consistent with ancient organic waste. The Turkish government later placed the site under protection and limited further access. Independent verification became difficult, but the samples that were collected and analyzed before restrictions showed chemical signatures inconsistent with the native geology of the area. If you're following this information and want to understand where it leads, subscribe now, because the next section connects these physical findings to the timing of their discovery and what that means prophetically. The geological context provides a mechanism for preservation. Mount Ararat is a volcanic mountain. The region has a documented history of volcanic activity, lava flows, ash deposits, pyroclastic events. When volcanic material flows over organic matter, it can encase it rapidly. The heat and minerals create conditions for fossilization. Organic material is replaced by minerals while the structure remains intact. This process is well documented in paleontology. It explains how shape and form can be preserved even when the original material is replaced. The formation at Darupanar shows signs of this process. The outer boundary is hardened, mineralized, distinct from the surrounding bedrock. Density readings indicate a composite material rather than uniform stone. This matches what would be expected if a wooden structure were encased in volcanic flow and underwent mineral replacement over millennia. The original wood would be gone. The shape would remain. The internal divisions would persist as mineralized boundaries. This is not speculation. It is established science applied to observable conditions. Volcanic encapsulation preserves structure. The Darupanar Formation sits in a volcanic region. The dimensions match the biblical account. The internal features suggest compartmentalization. The soil samples indicate organic concentration. Each element supports the others. Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 states that the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. Not Mount Ararat specifically. Mountains, plural. A region. The Darupanar site sits within that region. It is not on the summit of the main peak. It is on a lower elevation in the mountain range. This matches the text. The ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat, not on the highest point, in the range. The biblical account does not describe the ark as remaining intact and visible for perpetuity. It records that the ark rested, that Noah and his family exited, that they offered a sacrifice. Then the narrative moves forward. The text does not claim the ark would be preserved unchanged as a monument. It records an event, and the event concluded. What happened to the structure afterward is not detailed in Scripture. What we find at Darupanar is consistent with long-term preservation through geological processes, not miraculous suspension, not supernatural protection, natural encapsulation and mineralization in a volcanic environment. The biblical account allows for this. It does not require the ark to remain as it was built. It only requires that it existed, functioned, and came to rest where the text says it did. The restriction of access to the site is a matter of record. The Turkish government designates the area as an archaeological site and controls permissions for excavation. Multiple applications for comprehensive excavation have been submitted over the decades. Permissions have not been granted. Non-invasive scanning is permitted. Physical digging is not. This creates a situation where data accumulates, but physical verification remains incomplete. Why would access be restricted? Several factors apply. Turkey is a majority Muslim nation. The Quran also contains an account of Noah and the flood. However, Islamic tradition does not emphasize the ark's physical remains the way some Christian communities do. Allowing large-scale excavation by foreign researchers raises political and religious sensitivities. The site could become a focal point for conflicts over narrative and authority. Additionally, if excavation were to conclusively prove the formation is the remains of Noah's Ark, the implications extend beyond archaeology. It would validate the biblical flood account. It would provide physical evidence for an event that secular academia largely treats as myth. The geopolitical, religious, and academic consequences of such validation are substantial. Control of the site means control of the narrative. Restriction maintains ambiguity, but ambiguity does not erase data. The measurements exist. The radar scans exist. The soil samples exist. The volcanic context exists. The geographic alignment exists. The dimensional precision exists. These are facts, not interpretations. The formation at Darupanar measures 538 feet by 90 feet by 54 feet. Genesis records the ark at 300 by 50 by 30 cubits. Using the standard cubit length, the numbers match exactly. Matthew chapter 24, verse 37 records Jesus saying, "As the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be." He establishes a pattern. Conditions that existed before the flood will repeat before his return. What were those conditions? Genesis chapter 6 describes them. Wickedness was great. Violence filled the earth. Every intent of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. Yet life continued normally. People ate, drank, married, and built. They ignored the signs. They dismissed the warning. Noah preached for 120 years while building the ark. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 5 calls him a preacher of righteousness. For over a century, a massive ship was under construction on dry land. The warning was visible. The message was clear. The response was mockery. Then the flood came. Matthew 24 verse 39 says they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. Awareness existed. Evidence was present. Recognition came too late. The reemergence of ark-related evidence in the modern era fits this pattern. Technology now allows the detection of what was previously hidden: satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, chemical analysis, tools that did not exist until recent decades, the same period in which global conditions begin mirroring the days of Noah. Moral decline, violence, corruption. Yet normalcy continues. Life goes on. Warnings are dismissed. Jesus connected the two periods deliberately. As it was then, so it will be again. Not metaphorically. Literally. The pattern repeats. Before the flood, evidence of the coming judgment existed in the form of a massive boat under construction. In the modern era, evidence of that ancient judgment resurfaces through technology and discovery. Both serve as warnings. Both are largely ignored. The timing matters. The formation at Darupanar has been known since 1959. Why does detailed analysis emerge now? Why has interest intensified in recent years? Because technology has reached the point where subsurface examination has become possible without excavation. Because global communication allows information to spread beyond academic circles. Because the convergence of multiple data points, dimensional match, radar findings, soil analysis, and volcanic context creates a cumulative case that is harder to dismiss. Scripture establishes that God does not leave himself without a witness. Acts chapter 14, verse 17. Romans chapter 1 verse 20 states that his invisible attributes are clearly seen through what has been made. Evidence exists in creation. It points to the Creator. The flood was not a local event. It was global. The geological record contains layers of sediment deposited rapidly by water. Fossils of marine creatures appear on mountain tops. Coal and oil deposits form from massive organic burial. The physical evidence of a catastrophic flood exists worldwide. The ark represents both judgment and mercy. Judgment fell on a world that rejected God. Mercy was extended to those who entered the ark. 8 people were saved. The rest perished. The structure itself became the dividing line. Inside meant life. Outside meant death. The ark did not force anyone to enter. It stood as an option. An escape, a provision. Those who chose to enter were saved. Those who chose to stay outside were lost. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7 says, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear and prepared an ark for the saving of his household. He acted on information about the future. He built according to divine instruction. He trusted what God said even when conditions did not yet match the warning. The rain had not started. The flood had not come. But Noah prepared because the word was sure. The physical evidence at Darupanar does not save anyone. It does not prove God to skeptics. It does not force belief. What it does is provide a tangible connection to a recorded event. It makes the ancient account less abstract. It places biblical history in physical geography. It shows that the text describes real events in real places involving real dimensions. The compartmentalized interior revealed by radar matches the command to build rooms. The dimensions match the recorded cubits. The location matches the named region. The volcanic geology matches a preservation mechanism. The soil samples match expected residues from long-term animal habitation. The pieces align, not through imagination, through measurement. Current global conditions mirror the pre-flood era in specific ways. Genesis chapter 6 verse 11 says the earth was filled with violence. Turn on any news channel. Violence fills reports daily. Terrorism, war, crime, brutality. The scale is global. Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 says every intent of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. Moral standards have collapsed in a single generation. What was condemned decades ago is now celebrated. What was protected is now attacked. The inversion is comprehensive. Yet life continues. People plan vacations, buy homes, pursue careers, get married. The machinery of normal life runs without pause. This is exactly what Jesus described. Matthew chapter 24, verse 38. In the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. Normalcy persisted until the interruption arrived. The formation at Darupanar remains in place, documented but not excavated, scanned but not opened, measured but not verified through physical examination. It sits in the mountains of Ararat. As Genesis says, the ark came to rest. The dimensions match, the structure matches, the location matches, and the world continues largely unaware or indifferent. Jesus said it would be this way, as it was in the days of Noah. Evidence present, warning available, recognition delayed. The ark was visible for over a century before the flood. People saw it. They heard the message. They chose not to enter. Then the door closed. Genesis chapter 7, verse 16. And the Lord shut him in. Once that door closed, access ended. Opportunity passed. The question is not whether the formation at Darupanar is Noah's Ark. The measurements, the scans, the location, and the context provide substantial alignment with the biblical account. The question is what this reemergence means. Why now? Why does technology reveal what was hidden at the same time global conditions mirror pre-flood patterns? Why does evidence surface when the pattern Jesus described begins repeating? Scripture does not require the ark to be found for prophecy to be fulfilled. But patterns in Scripture show that God often provides signs before judgment. Physical evidence. Tangible markers. The ark itself was such a sign. Its construction warned of the coming flood. Its door offered escape. Its preservation through millennia now testifies that the event happened. The God who judged then can judge again. The mercy extended then is still extended now, but timing remains in His hands. The formation measures 538 feet. Genesis records 300 cubits. The numbers match. The location matches. The internal structure matches. The evidence accumulates. Access remains restricted. The world continues forward. And somewhere in the mountains of Ararat, a boat-shaped structure rests beneath volcanic stone, holding dimensions that were written down before modern measurement existed, positioned where an ancient text said it would be, waiting not for validation, but for the generation that recognizes what its presence means about the time in which they,